we're good.
Okay, so the first item is about the 190 projects. I spoke about it at the last F&F meeting. And so we've got it down to 3 projects that we couldn't get done. We're not going to get done until after June 30. So we need to move the money over into the capital project fund. And this is an annual type of thing that happens every year. There's a few projects that are budgeted for in the facilities 190 projects that we still need the rest of the summer to get done. And so the 3 projects total $17,288, and it's Lincoln Elementary School. There's a terrazzo repair at the LGI door that needs done for $5,866 was budgeted, and the Eisenhower Eisenhower Center, a repair on the terrazzo in the lower level lobby for $7,572. And then the high school completing the salt shed there for $3,850. So those are the 3 items that we'll be putting on the routine approvals for June 7th.
Are those terrazzo repairs moisture issues?
The two at Lincoln are not moisture issues. They are settling issues. They're cracks, and they're in the old part of the building that are starting to get a little bit worse, and we want to try to address them before they become a serious safety hazard. At Eisenhower, they are moisture issues.
Okay.
Eisenhower and the high school are both in the same era where moisture mitigation was not at the top of the priority list. And actually they didn't know, I guess, how the quote unquote new epoxy terrazzo was going to interact with moisture back then. But of course now we know.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately we just need to deal with the consequences.
Right, right. And so this is going to go on routine approvals. There's probably going to need to be a note, I'm guessing, Jason, just detailing them, and perhaps also the safety reason for the terrazzo repairs. And then the salt shed is something different, doesn't really fall into that safety category. So can you just perhaps explain a little bit about the salt shed?
All right, so the reason that we did not do the salt shed up to this point was I was kind of waiting on having the James Geddes parking lot project approved, because the concrete barriers that we're using over there to block off the parking lot, I want to use to build the salt shed with. So since that project is approved, once they start that and I can take those concrete blocks away, then we're going to use them to build the salt shed. We can save ourselves some money that way.
Okay. And this is the salt that is going to go on surfaces for de-icing and things like that.
That's correct. Yes. 2 years ago, I guess now, we struck a deal with the borough, and we're buying salt for $67 a ton, give or take, versus the $250 a ton that we used to pay. So we saved a lot of money.
Okay. All right. So
And all these things were budgeted in the facilities budget. It's just that we're not going to be able to get them done before June 30. And as everybody knows, at June 30, we basically lose that budget.
Right.
We're not asking for money. We're just asking to move the money.
Right. So that needs to be clear.
Yep.
You've noticed that there's perhaps still confusion as to what's in the general fund budget and the budget that we're in the process of approving and refining, as opposed to what's in the capital fund budget, as opposed to what's in other budgets as well. So just clearly defining that is going to be important, as well as noting things like health and saving and cost savings in that Friday. May not be a Friday update. It may be the Friday before the next.
Yeah, I would say, Tom and Jim, if you want for those items, just send a short description to Tam, and she can put it in executive content on the actual board agenda for the board members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, actually the next two items really was about trying to get some good feedback or direction from the board on where we want to go with these two items that obviously sort of got a lukewarm reaction as an info item. So, really the question is, do we just want to defer the topics for some period of time and come back with fresher information later? Does the board actually want to have a presentation by vendors to, that they can ask questions of and get more in depth on? We'd probably do that in an FNF, I guess. But those types of questions on, how we want to proceed with any of that. I
Tom
think
and
they both
Tom-
can be deferred a little bit.
yeah, I was just gonna ask Tom and Jim, how much are items 2 and 3 tied to work that's already going on in the district versus standalone isolated work that could be a topic later on, I guess is the question.
Item 3, the Synexus system is not really tied to any work that's happening over there right now.
Okay.
The door lockings, the wireless door locking system, there is some benefit to trying to do that at the same time that this high school project is going on, just because of the network wiring that would be involved to the wireless access points for this stuff. There is not, I can't really put a dollar figure on what that benefit might be right now. I just know there would be some benefit to doing it at the same time while we have the building torn apart.
So my question for the group would be, would it make sense to push 3 off for a while and have a facilities meeting in June where like this is the only topic and someone does a presentation on what that is?
The locking system, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that, I think.
Yeah, it's my opinion that we push the Synexus system off for a while. It's a really new technology. Carlisle is in the middle of it, and I'd kind of like to see what kind of success they have with it before we jump in. The wireless door locking system, if the board has any interest in pursuing that, I think we should try to pursue that as part of, I shouldn't say as part of, but during the high school renovation.
So if we, Jim, we could definitely probably get vendors or whatever, the people involved in the locking system to come to an FNF meeting in June
Yes,
and
yeah, they
presentation or
have,
just answer
yep,
questions or
yep,
something
they
like that.
have graciously suggested that they bring themselves here and talk to these folks, whether it be at a board meeting or at the FNF meeting. I mean, my question is, do we want them at the FNF meeting and the board meeting? Because it seems like some of the topics that discussed at the FNF meeting don't make it to everyone at the board meeting.
I mean, I would defer to Carrie on this, but I think that we could put it on an FNF meeting in June, basically tell everybody this is the agenda item. We'll be looking for some direction, and then follow up at a board meeting. But the more that they can see in both places, the better informed that they're going to be
Right.
to provide some direction. If we would choose to do that locking system, or if the board would choose to support doing the locking system, that wouldn't delay the HVAC at all, correct?
No, that will not delay the HVAC.
Because that'll be one of the first questions, I would think. But I mean, does that sound realistic, Carrie? Like doing?
It does. It makes sense to separate these two items, like clearly by date also that. And I think most of the board questions around the wireless door locking system had to do with that hardening of the school and the safety, and what happens if it kind of like getting into the minutia. What happens if the kids outside the room? Can somebody have access and override the system or anyway. So those are the kinds of things that would be important for the vendor to share. And if they have any scenarios particularly related to schools, that would be important as well. Letting the board members know in it, a couple weeks in advance when this is going to happen, and then reminders to attend the FNF meeting would perhaps get some better attendance. So I think it's a better strategy to separate the two and give advance notice to board members a couple weeks in ahead, and let the vendors know to tailor that presentation really in particularly about school safety and hardening of schools. Everybody wants to see their kids back in school. They want to see them in the buildings. And how does this help or with both measures that like a gentle hardening of schools as well as promote a safe return to schools.
And
I think that one of the
go
other
ahead.
things we'll have to consider is, and we kind of got close to the line at the last meeting, but they'll have to be able to present the information in a way, and we'll have to be able to answer questions in a way publicly that don't open us up to a recorded live stream meeting. So we don't want to share
Right.
how we're keeping our buildings secure. So I think we have to think about how the information is presented and how we answer questions as not to, I don't know a better term, so I'll say divulge proprietary information regarding our safety measures.
Right, and that makes absolute sense. We don't want the world to know how, just, open the door for them to figure out ways to be smarter than the
Yeah.
system that's established.
Right,
Right.
yeah. And the next FNF meeting would normally be scheduled on June 17th. Sometimes we don't have them over the summer, but
Mhm.
the next,
Well, it sounds like if we just did this item and send something out in advance, mention something at the June 7th board meeting, we might, I think people had opinions on this, so I think they might choose to attend.
Mhm.
Is this something we want to consider having in person?
I think that we can, especially since everything's being lifted basically May 31st with regards to people gathering. And it looks like it's only going to continue to open up as we move through the summer, or at least the last article I saw this morning.
yeah, it sounds like no matter what happens, like masks and stuff are being lifted June 28th. Unless you get 70% before that.
So I think we could plan on in person if everybody's fine with that.
Yeah, I think it's wise, along with your the previous statements. If we have it in person, then we're also not sending out a recording.
Right.
But for the, it is appropriate for a smaller group, the board, as well as very interested citizens to be in person to hear that kind of information.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, and then the dry hydrogen, we'll just defer that off to a future FNF. We'll bring it back up as like, when do we want to discuss it type of thing, or plan for that.
Yes.
And then, we're really down to the last item, and that's the, Jim was just going to give a very brief summary update of where we were with the current FIP project at the high school.
Yeah, we are in the process of moving classrooms out. It's going really well, actually. I think the first floor, we've only got two classrooms that aren't moved. And I think they were moving 10 or so classrooms on the second floor today. So, and the contractors are making very good progress. And actually right now they're a little ahead of schedule. So things are looking up. Items are being delivered that we thought might delay the project. And at this point, it's looking good.
You're not knocking on wood or something over
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
Exactly. Knock on wood.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I still have concerns, but not nearly as many today as I had 3 weeks ago.
Good.
So I think that's really it, that we just wanted to make sure we got this out. And of course, Carrie, you're the only board member here.
So we'll make some other opportunities for people to hear some information. And of course, Andrew will share the recording so others can know what was discussed. And it can be a short meeting then.
That's right. We'll get set up for June 17th in person in the in the boardroom then.
Okay,
The real boardroom in the admin office.
very good.
All right. Thanks.
Okay,
everyone.
thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
sound-
everybody.
Yep, thank you.